Welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay.
And welcome to another episode of Pit Lane Parlay. My name is host Mike Jokum. It is just Jess joining me tonight while Matt and his family explore the world of bougie cheese wherever they are on vacation. So before we get into an exciting Mid-Ohio, just want to say thank you to our sponsor in GripMat, GRYPMAT.com, the world's first flexible non-slip tool mat developed by an awesome Air Force mechanic. If you go to the website and use promo code PLP10, you get 10% off your order. So, Jess, did you enjoy Mid-Ohio from a TV perspective?
I mean, is that a real question? Because dang, that race was good. That was such a good race. Of course I enjoyed Mid-Ohio.
Yes, I had a blast all weekend. You know, just a quick recap. The finishing order in the top five was a Ganassi lockout with Dixon and Rosenquist. Ryan Hunter-Reay, Will Power, and Alex Rossi squeaked into fifth thanks to some errors from another championship contender, bringing us to our championship update. Newgarden still leads, but now with his error, Rossi is within 16, Pagenaud's within 47. Mr. Scott Dixon is within 62 just when we started counting him out, and by we, I mean me, and Will Power is 148 back, so maybe a little tough for Power there, but I think the thing that intrigued me the most this weekend, I don't know about you, Jess, was the two-stop versus the three-stop strategies, which we all discussed last week. And it seemed pretty evident that there were guys bailing on the two-stop strategy within the first half of the race. So do you think the multiple strategies like that kind of bog down the race or make it exciting?
I think at the beginning, it was feeling like it could have been exciting. However, I think at the end, when everybody kind of got to the point where everybody had to make one more stop, it kind of just, it didn't add anything to it. So I think at the beginning of the race, it did add to it and added some excitement on who's going to make it out first, especially with that long pit lane. But I think at the end, it kind of all equalized and was kind of just meh, you know, everybody has to make another stop. Nobody's really going to run away with it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think especially really up until Felix Rosenquist pit around lap 40-ish to go off of the two-stop strategy onto a three-stop strategy. You know, there were guys like Will Power who was starting to slide back and Rossi who was struggling to hang on, and probably a couple others where you were going, this two-stop strategy isn't working. Why isn't anybody changing? So I think it was very exciting from that standpoint as to, you know, when you could tell, you know, this two-stop strategy isn't working, and it almost didn't work for Scott Dixon. So with that being said, the last, I don't know, let's say 15 laps, probably some of the best road course racing we might have seen of all time. What do you think?
I mean, I definitely have to put it up there. It was a nail biter. I was making all kinds of noises from my couch. I'm sure my neighbors did not appreciate that, but man, it was crazy. It was so good. I can't imagine that if somebody was tuning in for the first time to an INDYCAR race and they got to see those last, 10, 15 laps, that they are not a lifetime fan now, because that was insane.
Yeah, man, let's just put it this way, because I don't have the greatest long-term memory of all time. At least since we started the show, and maybe the season before that, it was definitely the best, at least the best ending or the best finish to a road course race that I can remember. Just let's dive right into it. Jess, who is your driver of the day?
Oh man, put me on the spot as usual.
It's a lot easier to do when Matt's on vacation.
I know, right? But I also get cream of the crop if I'm going first, so I can't really complain too much, I guess. I am gonna go with Felix Rosenquist. He had a heck of a drive. In my opinion, he should have won the race. I think kind of in Scott Dixon's opinion, he should have won the race. But he was really laying down some good laps and really was not making many mistakes. So I really enjoyed watching him run.
Yeah, you took the easy one there. I kind of expected that. But, man, I'm looking at the finishing standings here, and I don't know who else I really want to go with. I know who I don't want to go with. So I'm going to go with Ryan Hunter-Reay. Started 10th, kind of had an all right weekend, but nothing really spectacular to write home about for sure. And thanks to, Newgarden's misplaced car, sneaks onto the podium with third. But even if he finished fourth, he still had a really solid race and just kind of, he didn't do anything flashy, but he didn't make any mistakes. So, a consummate drive from Ryan Hunter-Reay there. And I did just want to say the Mid-Ohio crowd all weekend, I'm sure you could see it on TV, but in person, Sunday, it was mobbed. It was really tough to walk around because there were so many people everywhere. So Ohio people really turn out for a race. Moving on, Takuma Sato, no attack, no chance really doesn't work for me here. And Jess, I don't know what you thought of his lap 1 incident, but I'll turn it over to you before I give my opinion.
Yeah, that was just plain ugly. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say about it, honestly. He massively screwed up, and in my opinion, he's very lucky that it didn't take out a whole lot more people than it did, but it was just not the time or place to try to attack. The first lap there is not the time to do it. So I don't know. I just can't agree with what he was thinking there, I guess.
Yeah, I think the worst part about it is he ruined both of the Schmidt-Peterson guys' days, and Marcus Ericsson made it, back around the pit lane, and that's it. And James Hinchcliffe had a really fast car and finished 22nd. I think he actually had the fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, he did.
But you could hear him on the radio, and he just sounded so dejected the entire race. I mean, I don't blame him. He was 3 laps off the pace, and I did, being the ultimate professional Hinchcliffe is, when the group of the first 5 or 6 leaders were coming up on him, he just went in pit lane, put on some new tires, and got out of the way. So, good on James there. But one thing I skipped is the disappointment of the day. And Jess, I will let you go first again.
Well, it's kind of hard to not pick Sato, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna not do that. I think I'm gonna pick. I think I'm gonna pick RC Enerson. He didn't have an awful day by any means, but I think people expected more out of him. I personally wasn't really sure what to expect, so I kind of went into it with an open mind. But I guess I would have liked to seen a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I too, Sato would be the easy one, but I'm going to go with Zach Veach, especially after he had a good weekend in Iowa last weekend and just kind of followed it up with a blah pretty much all weekend. And I'm sure, we'll touch on some Veach stuff later in the episode, but just an all-around not really that great of a weekend. Let's see here. So, we talked about Felix Rosenqvist. He, our Twitter poll, everybody who voted had him as the driver of the day. And this was definitely, I would say, his best drive of the year. So now he's 40 points up on the Rookie of the Year honors over, I believe the second closest is Ferrucci. Ericsson is third. And then Colton Herta somehow is about, 40 points back there. Real quick, before I ask you a question, Jess, isn't it crazy that Colton Herta is the only one of those 4 that has a race win, and he's not really even close to being the Rookie of the Year?
The consistency, unfortunately, hasn't been there.
Yes, very true. As Davey Hamilton mentioned in our episode with Steinbrenner this weekend. That is the biggest thing that Colton and the team needs to work on. But back to Felix, do you think that he's kind of gotten a stronghold on the Rookie of the Year honors, or similar to the championship, is it a wide open game right now?
I personally feel like it's still wide open. I don't know how wide open. I wouldn't say that they probably all still have a chance, but I definitely think it's still wide open because, Colton has won one. Let's not count him out on winning another. Santino has done extremely well on ovals, and there's 2 more of those to go. So I still think that it could be anybody's ball game.
Yeah, that's fair. Santino's next race is his home race, which is my home race, which means for once I don't have to be in the car for 8 hours or in an airport for 22 hours. So I'm very excited about that. I don't know. I think Rosenqvist, if he is even about 3/4 as good as he was on Sunday, has this wrapped up. But again, that's a big if because they're rookies and you never know. I'm going to jump around here a little bit. Since we just talked about Colton Herta, there was an incident during the race where it looked like, to me, I don't know, if they showed any replays, that Colton tried to undercut Sebastian Bourdais going to one of the corners there, spun Bourdais around. Thankfully, Bourdais had no damage, did a perfect 360 and continued. And he wasn't thrilled with INDYCAR social media tweeting a picture or a video of the 360 and just kind of saying, "Wow, that's cool." And I think his reply was something like, "Yeah, because I got hit," and I don't blame him. Which if you think back to Iowa, where Takuma Sato had a little bit of an issue, Sage Karam had nowhere to go and ran into him and got a penalty. In this case, it was kind of Herta's fault, and he didn't get a penalty. What are your thoughts there?
I have to start with saying I disagree that it wasn't Sage's fault that he had nowhere to go, because he went right up the track into the marbles and followed Sato when Sato was kind of getting out of the way. So I personally felt that it was Sage's fault. As far as this one, I think it was more of a racing incident than somebody being at fault. I think they both were fighting for that real estate. I think that Colton probably could have lifted a little bit. As far as him getting a penalty, though, I'm torn on this one, honestly. And all season, I've been pretty set on everybody getting, either getting or not. This one, I'm a little up in the air, but I feel like, yeah, he probably should have. Honestly.
So the first part of your response, yeah, I think he just, being as a rookie, kind of didn't, expect Bourdais to turn when he turned, but that's what you get for not having a ton of experience at a track. But in terms of a penalty, I'm going to go with no. I think they've called that sort of situation as a non-penalty for the most part when guys get spun like that. It didn't look on purpose. I know you can get a penalty for accidental or incidental contact, but I don't know. I don't think it really deserved a penalty there. So we'll agree to disagree on that one.
What's new?
I mean, that's fine. I don't want to agree with you on everything. I don't really like it. Perhaps the biggest story in seeing the reaction of Team Penske when this happened was really crazy. But Josef Newgarden putting his car in a, trying to go for the podium on, what was that, 2 laps to go there, or the last lap to pass Ryan Hunter-Reay. I don't really know, and I don't think Joseph knows, because he has lamented it. And, Ryan Hunter-Reay afterwards pretty much said, "I'm not really sure what he was thinking." So, Jess, what was Josef Newgarden thinking?
He was not. He was not thinking in that moment. Yeah, that was an awful attempt at, I don't even know what we'll call it the half donut like Rossi did the year before. I don't know what he was thinking. I'm sorry, Hinch, not Rossi. But yeah, no, it was yeah, I really don't even have words for whatever that was that he tried to do. And I think that he pretty much was the same way. He doesn't have any idea what he was trying to do either.
Yeah, man. It's felt like a very similar mistake that he made last year at the Indy Grand Prix. I think on Bourdais in one of the first 5 or 6 turns of the course. I can't remember off the top of my head, but just, getting a little too aggressive where he doesn't need to. And, not only did he, bring Alex Rossi from being about 40-ish points back in the standings, he brought him back to 16 points and single-handedly made Scott Dixon's 60-point deficit not look like that much now. Even if he won and Newgarden was 4th, you're still looking at probably an 80-point difference, and you're going, probably not. 60 points is it's tough, but then again, it's Scott Dixon, and I think I described him this weekend as a wizard on the racetrack. So not a good move by Josef. Which brings us to our first fan question of the day. We're going to sneak this into the Mid-Ohio topic here since it kind of pertained to it. Thanks to Mark Van Niekerk for submitting this. It relates to blue flags and Marco Andretti and Takuma Sato, who were battling for position kind of in between Scott Dixon and Felix Rosenqvist the last 5 or 6 laps or so. Would you like to see IndyCar, maintain their current approach of, listen, those guys were fighting for a position, so we're not going to blue flag them? Or would you like to see them take more of an F1 approach and say, listen, the leaders are coming, get out of the way?
No, I appreciate what IndyCar does. Marco and Sato were fighting for position, and not only were they fighting for position amongst themselves, they were fighting to get their lap back. I mean, they didn't fall off when they were passed. They were right there in the middle of everything. So I personally think that they should be allowed to fight as much as they want and try to get their lap back. And also, why would you, if they have to slow down in order to get out of the way so that the leaders can pass, then that opens them up to the person that they're battling with, down the line, let's say for 15th or 16th place. That allows that person to get a jump on them. So I don't think it would be fair of IndyCar to do that.
I hate to say it, but I'm going to agree with you. If you're telling those guys to back off at a windy road course, there's not a lot of room, especially at Mid-Ohio, for people to just move over. It's not like Circuit of the Americas where there's plenty of runoff space where the guys could swing wide or whatever. And I know some people online said, well, Sato had to duck into the pits. Sato had to duck in the pits because he had a side pod that was loose, or a piece was broken or something like that. So I don't think that really applies. So Mark, great question. I'm content with the way IndyCar does it. And I know Felix Rosenqvist actually asked the question himself and got a lot of really good replies on either side of the fence to this issue as well. So if you didn't see it, go to Felix's Twitter and check it out. So before we wrap up what was a fantastic weekend in Mid-Ohio, we have to talk about our predictions we made last week. And I say that kind of somber because we weren't really all that good.
All of us were mediocre.
Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Jack Harvey had a solid day, finishing 10th, and really had a good weekend. That was your good pick. Jess, your bad pick was Ed Jones. He finished 13th after qualifying 18th, so not really bad. Again, mediocre. I had Dale Coyne as good. Bourdais was 11th. Santino was 12th. Both had flashes of good. Bourdais qualified 5th, and I think that spin really hurt him. And Sato, I guess, did have a bad day, so I wasn't too wrong there. Matt with Ray Hall is good. He did go from 15th to 9th. All right, Matt, I'll give you that one since you're on vacation. Matt's bad was Max Chilton. Max Chilton wasn't bad. Qualified 16th and finished 16th, and fought hard. I think he had some good battles with some guys in the mid pack there. So, all in all, I think we were pretty average this weekend. Definitely not our best efforts.
Not at all. So,
real quick before I get to the Stump the Host and we get to the rest of the episode where we get to talk about silly season. This time 1 year ago was our first silly season discussion, and it's time to bring it back now that everything is going haywire. But just want to thank all of our Patreon subscribers. There's enough of you now that it's kind of tough to get in, a handful each episode, but thank you for everything. If you're interested in joining, please just ask me. We've got a really fun, in addition to everything, you can get a Twitter group chat that we talk about racing and non-racing, and usually it blows up my phone all day, but it's a ton of fun, and everybody in there is a good friend and family now. So it's definitely worth checking out. But with that, Jess, I've got a good Stump the Host for you that I'm pretty confident I'm going to stump you.
Great.
Scott Dixon won his 6th race of his career at Mid-Ohio, but I'm going to go a little bit in the archives on this one, because we all can pick that, Michael Andretti won 7 times in Toronto. And there is one driver in IndyCar history that has won at one track double-digit times. And yes, it was because they raced at this track twice a year. Jess, I'll give you one clue. It is an IndyCar legend, and the track is now a Walmart. Just think he may or may not be a IndyCar team owner.
Well, I was gonna go with probably Foyt.
Okay, you got that right.
But I don't know.
Think East Coast.
I have no idea.
The correct answer would be Trenton Speedway.
Oh, I should have known that because you love Trenton.
Yes, I love the history behind the crazy, strange-shaped Trenton Speedway. Mario Andretti won there 7 times as well, and another legend won there 6 or 7 times too, and the name's escaping me because I didn't write it down. But yeah, cool little fact, AJ Foyt fact there for the Foyt fans that are listening. So yeah, good effort.
I mean, I sort of got half of it right.
Yeah, we'll give you credit.
Okay, that's what I'm talking about. Okay, so moving on. We are going to talk a little bit about silly season. I feel like we've talked a lot already about silly season, just not like all specifically at one time. So we're going to kind of do a little bit of a rundown here of kind of what is going on. Let's start with the biggest news because we got to get it out of the way before we can let the other dominoes fall in place. So Alexander Rossi. Everybody wanted Alexander Rossi, and Rossi had some offers on the plate. He thought about them, but he went ahead and signed a multi-year deal with Andretti again. So my question for you is, do you think this is better for Rossi or for Andretti?
Sometimes I write down these show notes and I stump myself. It's most likely better for Andretti because I think Rossi has proven himself a fantastic driver. And whether he went to Penske or Schmidt-Peterson or Ganassi, Rossi was going to be a winning driver. With Andretti having, kind of him and Hunter Ray as the podium contenders each weekend, and Veach and Marco kind of, not having great seasons, to lose Rossi really would have hurt their kind of overall season for 2020. I'm sure they would have been able to bring in, somebody like Colton Herta or something like that. And I'm sure we'll talk about him in a little bit here, but definitely helps Andretti more than Rossi. Although, continuity for Rossi with his engineer and the team is also very good.
I unfortunately have to agree with you. I think far and away it's better for Andretti because I think that Rossi would have slotted in perfect to, pretty much any seat that he would have been up for. We know Penske wanted him. like you mentioned, SPM, Ganassi, everybody wanted him. That just goes to show what kind of driver you're looking at, what caliber he is. He is up there. He's going to do good no matter where he's at. And I think it's going to be fun to watch him, honestly. So he did do the multi-year deal. Next year, he is going to be sponsored by Napa again. They're coming back. And also Autonation is going to be on for, looks like 7 races. So do you think that Autonation coming over to Rossi is going to affect Jack Harvey and his situation?
I doubt it. Honestly, Jack Harvey does really well with the sponsor side of things. He works really hard at it. I know Autonation, wants to, be back with Meyer Shank Racing again next year. So I know Jack probably was a little concerned at first when he heard the news, but I really don't think it, with Autonation stepping up, I don't think Jack has anything to worry about. He's, I think he surprised a lot of people this year, and Autonation really seems to like him.
Yeah, I unfortunately have to agree with you again. He's done extremely well, especially given the circumstances, not running a full season, and kind of just feeling his way through. I think he's done really well, and I don't think he has to worry at all. So on that note, one more kind of note about Andretti. We do have a source who has told us that the 26 car and the 98 car will be switching engineering teams, trying to see if they can't get that 26 to perform a little better. Good luck to them on that front. So moving on, now that Rossi has fallen into place, and we know that was like domino number 1, now I feel like everybody's going to start falling into place, and there's going to be a lot more rumors about kind of, we'll call them the little teams, so to speak. You know what I mean. They're not little, but they're smaller. Herta. Kind of everybody wants Herta. SPM wants Herta. ECR wants Herta. And then there's this one team that keeps popping up that we've talked about a couple thousand times, it feels like at this point.
Yeah.
That one team that really likes papaya orange and no other orange, because McLaren wants Herta. What are your feelings on all this?
So, a couple of weeks ago, I was roaming around the paddock after our fantastic blogger, Mike Knapp, made me drink a lot of tequila the night before, and just kind of overheard some people saying, oh, McLaren's got some interest. And I was like, I don't know about that. And lo and behold, what I heard was accurate, or is accurate, as it's, coming out of the woodwork now. And I know there are many people who are going to go, I am not reading anything McLaren until it's actual news and no more rumors. But this one has a lot of legs to it. I get why they're interested in Colton Herta. If you're, McLaren, and you're either partnering with a team or buying a team, why wouldn't you want the young, fast rookie who's going to be around IndyCar for a long time?
In my opinion, they would be crazy to not want him.
Yeah, I mean, they're not the only team that's interested in him, sort of like he's like the younger version of Rossi right now, that if you've got an open slot, you probably want Alex Herta, Colton Herta.
We'll just rename him.
Yeah. Sorry, Colton. Now that he cut the flow, we're gonna have to rename him. But it's very interesting.
It is very interesting. So we'll talk a little bit about McLaren in general. So McLaren is supposedly looking to join IndyCar full time. The way that everything is reading, the way the rumors are falling as of right now, they are looking and are interested in a 2-car team, and they are interested in a partnership. They don't want to do it alone. They kind of learned their lesson, thank God. And I mean, I don't know much more than anybody else does. I personally think it has legs. I think that McLaren they want their, not revenge, so to speak, but yeah, they want their revenge for not making the 500, for getting cake smeared in their face. So I believe it could happen. I'm really interested in seeing if it does happen. They have talked to Andretti, but Andretti is staying with Honda, and Honda doesn't particularly care for McLaren for obvious reasons.
No idea why.
So I get it. So in that case, who do you think might work? Because, SPM's got another year with Honda. I mean, who do you think they might end up with?
I ran this idea by a few people in that Ed Carpenter would make a lot of sense. They're Chevy. They're a solid team. They've got, Spencer Pigot as the full-time driver who has really turned it on the last couple of weeks, and I think is starting to figure a few things out. And Ed Carpenter loves him, so I don't think Spencer will be going anywhere. But I heard that Ed Carpenter really only wants any sort of partnership for the month of May. Otherwise, not really interested. So that's really where I struggle. I can't, maybe I can't see McLaren really wanting to partner with Foyt. No offense to Foyt, but I think McLaren also kind of burned some bridges with Carlin, so you can kind of cross Carlin off the lists. So I don't know. Maybe I honestly don't know where to go with this one. I'm gonna say that there's a couple more surprises down this road that we haven't yet heard before we can definitively guess where McLaren is going to potentially end up.
Okay, let me just throw this out there, and this is just one of those, it's not in the lineup, so this one's going to throw you for a loop here.
Oh, boy.
Could you see McLaren paying enough money to a smaller Honda team to buy them out of their Honda contract?
Yes.
Yeah, me too.
I mean, they have enough money in McLarenville that they can do whatever they want.
Yep, that's how I feel about it also. As far as your Ed Carpenter racing thing, that would be a heck of a story. I mean, little boy who could from Indiana, and then partnering with McLaren. I wonder if he would be interested in kind of doing it almost backwards. They partner for everything, and he gets drawn the 500. It would be, I mean, God, if he had that kind of money to run the 500, it would be almost impossible to beat him, I feel like. But anyways, moving on. So McLaren, we're definitely all keeping our ears open and listening, but we're also not holding our breath yet. So Marcus Ericsson, he is a free agent. I don't know. What do you think? Where do you think he's going to land at?
Every time I think Marcus Ericsson is fully on board with this IndyCar thing, he's talking about F1 or, I know he did the Pirelli test there. He says he wants to be back in IndyCar, but when they interviewed Sam Schmidt this weekend, or and I forget who wrote the article. I forget if it was Racer or Motorsports. So I apologize to whoever wrote this article if I'm butchering this, but I didn't get the sense that it was an amazing, endorsement of Marcus when he, when they were talking about him. They were kind of yeah, if he comes back, great. If not, we'll find somebody else. That's kind of how I took it. So if he comes back to IndyCar, I think it's with Schmidt-Peterson. I don't think, unless a team is throwing a ton of money at him, he'll go elsewhere. I think him and Hinch have gelled all right. And I think Marcus is actually a talented driver. He's shown that here versus being a backmarker in F1. But if it's not with Schmidt-Peterson, I don't think he's in IndyCar next year.
What about maybe a Carlin?
Oh, okay.
Because, I mean, he wants to be in IndyCar, or at least he says he wants to be in IndyCar. I would like to see him back. And like you said, I think he's talented. So I think that it could be an okay fit. Like you said, he's gelled okay with Hinchcliffe, but they're not besties. And I think that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think he's just not used to being friendly because he comes from F1 and it's like a totally different world over there. So I think, another full season would be good for him. And I think he could slot in at Carlin because, he ran this whole season, so he knows the tracks. So he might be a better fit than some of the people that they're, quote unquote, testing. Just my opinion.
That's a very good point. My only question would be, and I really have no idea because the car is, fully Aero branded. Does Ericsson have enough money, or is he bringing any money? What does he bring sponsorship wise? And I know, that's not a question you can probably answer, but that would be, something, especially for Carlin, that would probably be pretty important. I think he'd fit in great there, but I don't know, his money situation would be the one thing that would give me a little bit of caution on that one.
How about the money situation, their money situation, and his money situation?
Yeah, very fair. Okay, I'm on board with that.
Okay, so moving on then to another rookie. During the broadcast over the weekend, and I cannot remember for the life of me who said this, so forgive me. Somebody in the booth stated that Rosenqvist was pretty much having the drive of his life because he was more relaxed due to the fact that he will be back next year. I have not seen an official announcement, but that's pretty good indicator right there. If they say it on TV, it's pretty well going to happen. And frankly, I think Chip's making a good decision if he does keep him.
Yeah, I think he's been more consistently competitive than Ed Jones was last year. I think Ed Jones was just in a bad spot where, Ganassi knew that Rosenqvist was a free agent after, the 2018 season ended. So, which didn't help his case and probably didn't help his confidence. But listen, Rosenqvist had a pole earlier this year, second place finish this week. He's had a couple good races this month. I know he wasn't great in Iowa, but I'm pretty sure he finished decently in Toronto 2 weekends ago, or 3 weekends ago, I guess, at this point, by the time the episode comes out. So, I obviously didn't hear the broadcast, but I am intrigued, and hopefully we get some sort of confirmation at some point.
I hope so, because I think he is an asset to that team. Okay, so last one, and I don't really know if this is breaking news by any stretch of the imagination. We've touched on this before. Robin Miller had mentioned in his mailbag, basically, why would TK want to go back to Foyt? I mean, and anybody who has paid any attention probably agrees with that. I love Foyt, don't get me wrong. I've always been a huge fan, but unfortunately right now, his team is not competitive. Now, obviously, they have stated, what was that, like 3 weeks ago, month ago, whatever, that they were going to start thinking outside the box. They were going to basically rebuild the team from the ground up and try to get back to that competitive nature that they used to have. If that were the case, then yes, I think TK would be a good person to be there, because as far as I can tell, he still has the talent. He still makes some great moves when he can. I don't know where else he would go, unfortunately. I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of open seats that he could jump in. What do you think?
Still, like, almost my exact sentence. Where else is he going to go? The other thing, there's probably not a lot of open seats for an older driver who still wants to be racing and is capable of racing. ABC Supply Co. really loves Tony Kanaan because I'm sure he's great with all the sponsor side of things and appearances and whatnot. So why would TK want to go back? Because if he wants to be there, AJ Foyt will keep signing that check. And so, yeah, I'm just going to leave it at that.
He can still get in the race car. How about that?
Yes, thank you. So before we get to the pitfalls, Jess, one final fan question. This is a two-parter I made it one question from 2 fan questions. So thank you to at Caleb GEROLD. I'm not going to try to screw that one up. And thank you at Andy Jones 6704. 1, thank you for an easier name. And 2, thank you for the questions. First, what are the chances that Colton Herta chooses McLaren? And part B, if he does, what do you think that Mr. George Steinbrenner does? Okay, well, first part. We're going to assume, because this is magic on the show, that McLaren does exist and they are making this happen. I am going to say that the chances that Herta goes to McLaren are very high. I am saying this because they are going to be able to offer him money that Harding Steinbrenner unfortunately cannot. They also offer him, in the long run, a better opportunity to have a better team, in my opinion, only because they do have the money to throw at it. And once they sort themselves out and realize that it's not as easy as it looks on TV, I believe they will be able to become a very competitive team. Now, that being said, what does Steinbrenner do? So I read an interview with George, in fact, where he even said that if McLaren was pursuing him, that he should go. So, I mean, I think that says a lot. I think that George understands, obviously the business side of things. And I think that they could bring somebody up from Indy Lights, or, they've got the deal with Andretti. As far as it being an obligation, I don't know. I don't know what kind of obligation they have there with Andretti, but they do have the deal with them. So that's a nice pipeline of some really good up-and-coming drivers that they could possibly start to, work on, just like they did with Colton. So I honestly can kind of see it being the best of both worlds. Yeah, I think if Herta is offered a contract by McLaren, the smart thing would be to take it, obviously, with the sponsorship at Harding Steinbrenner kind of being all over the place, guests signing for the season, and then they haven't been on the car since the announcement came out. Capstone has, graciously taken over, but, who knows how much money they're actually, bringing. And, they have a couple smaller partnerships, but, they're still short on money. So, Andy asked, is Steinbrenner contractually obligated with Andretti? I think to a small degree, yes, but I think it's more on the Colton Herta side of things that Michael Andretti owns part of Colton Herta's contract. Even Michael Andretti said it was confusing. So I'm not going to try to explain it. But I think if Colton goes to McLaren, Steinbrenner is not bound to Andretti, but would be smart to, attach himself there, even if Mike Harding kind of is not on the scene anymore, because he could be that pipeline for an Oliver Askew or a Renus VK, or I don't know, somebody from maybe overseas who we've never heard of before, can step in there and learn the ropes. And in a couple of years, when Ryan Hunter-Reay is ready to retire, you've got a driver to fit in there, and now you bring up another driver, and it's kind of like not a junior team, because obviously, as we've seen this year, Colton Herta is very competitive, but proving grounds, but kind of still getting that INDYCAR experience that's so vital. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens in the next few weeks. Yeah, I mean, all those articles that said once Rossi signed with Andretti or signed somewhere that the silly season would be pretty boring, and I think we kind of all said that off air at one point or another. Well, we were all definitely wrong there, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be more stuff coming out in the next couple weeks. But before we get to our favorite jingle of the week, quick shout out to SoundQ Audio. Go to www.soundqaudio.com. Use the promo code PLP35, and you get a whopping 35% off your order, guys. So check it out. They make great headphones and little speakers and phone charger, and I think they're adding stuff soon. So go check it out. And with that,
And now it's time for Pit Lane Parlay's Pitfalls of the Week.
Jess, I'll let you lead this off.
All right. Mine's going to be short and sweet because we already talked about it. I'm just going to expand a little on my particular thoughts. Josef Newgarden, my man, what were you thinking? You had a pretty firm grasp on the championship there. You knew what you were, fighting for, I guess, so to speak. And you made what can only be called a rookie move. I just can't, like I said, I can't imagine what was going through his mind. Frankly, I'm sure he's beating himself up more than I ever could. So I will leave it at that. And it'll be interesting to watch it play out.
Yeah. I don't need to expand too much on that one. We already talked about it at the beginning, but not good. So as Jess, you and I were talking beforehand, I was trying to figure out what I wanted to pitfall. I'm going to pitfall both of what I wanted to pitfall, because I'm going to be greedy and I feel like it. First off, there is a new reality TV show on the Country Music Network, which I don't know if I get, but the commercials are on some channel that my wife watches, called Racing Wives, about the NASCAR wives, and it's reality TV. Just why? It's going to be so dumb. I mean, most of reality TV is awful. It's so goofy. It's going to be worse than the regular reality TV that's on most of the channels that I unfortunately am stuck watching on the couch downstairs sometimes. So I'll leave that one at that. I will not be watching unless I see some clip pop up on YouTube. But the more interesting pitfall, well, I guess I should say, whose idea was it to make a show about NASCAR wives? But the more interesting one is Tony Stewart found his way in the news again for a not good reason. He was being heckled a lot by a fan this past weekend in Jackson, Minnesota. I wonder if that's near Matt's house. And I know some heckling fans can get really rude and say a lot of things that they really shouldn't say. But as a professional, you have to just walk away and realize he's an idiot and he's not worth your time. But instead, Tony Stewart punched him in the head. And as a co-owner of Stewart Haas Racing, and as this article says, the mastermind behind Eldora Speedway, and he's a prominent NASCAR figure still. And I know he's got a bad temper, but Tony, I mean, you're a grown man. You should know better than to punch a heckler in the face. It's just not a good look.
Can I take a slightly different stance?
You can do whatever you want.
I'm not saying yay, go Tony. I'm not saying that. However, what I am saying is that you saying that it's not a good look for NASCAR or whatever, that is the exact look of NASCAR.
Yeah, okay.
So it's hard to say that he shouldn't do that because NASCAR is watching. All they're going to do is fine him. And we all know he has the money, so let them do it and move on. It's kind of what his fans have grown to love about him, is his fieriness, and so more power to him. And as far as that TV show, no thanks. Moving on.
Yeah, you raised a good point there on both. I guess it's the NASCAR way. So I don't know. I know being heckled most likely when you're Tony Stewart sucks, and I'm sure the guy was saying some terrible things, and I don't think you should ever heckle somebody like that, because at the end of the day, these drivers and team owners are people just like the rest of us. So don't heckle and don't punch people in the face. That's your life lesson for this week's episode. I'm really sad that there's no race this weekend, but I am going to enjoy resting a little bit. So everybody, again, thank you for listening. I think Matt will be back next week with some bougie cheese knowledge, or maybe his parents have wised him up that Kraft singles on hot dogs is disgusting. And with that, Jess, go ahead and sign us off.
And guys, keep your lug nuts tight.